I saw a lifeless body pinned up against an apartment window while driving home from work, and I'm not too sure what to think of it. It was about a week ago. I was driving home on my usual route, me zoned out, allowing my subconscious to guide me, and it wasn't until a red light stopped me. That's when I saw it. There was a mid-rise apartment complex on the corner of an intersection I usually ignore, but for some reason that day, the red light took longer than usual. Well, it seemed to. My senses gradually returned to me after an hour of mind-numbing driving. I let out a heavy exhale, me sitting there being impatient since I still had another 30 minutes ahead of me. So as I waited for the light to turn, I started to look around. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary. People walking along the sidewalk, carrying on with their day-to-day lives. Boring, I thought. So I started to look up. My eyes scanned each window, not really anticipating anything of excitement. My music blasting in the background. I could feel my thoughts beginning to wander once again. That was until my eyes passed it. And it took my brain a few seconds to register what I just saw. Wait, what the hell? I said to myself. My eyes quickly backtracked to the last window. I paused on it with utter confoundment. It couldn't be what I thought it was it? I squinted my eyes trying to get a better view of it. Cautiously, I was able to make out the shape. I could clearly see its legs and torso pressed up against the window, its head turned away from me, only revealing its shaggy hair. Has to be someone sleeping, I murmured to myself. I stared at it for several seconds, waiting for the body to move, but nothing. It didn't. Honk! The car behind me blaring its horn for me to move, startling me, causing me to instinctively press on the accelerator. I threw my arm up in a polite gesture to apologize, but the car aggressively drove around me and flicked me off. Go figure. As I continued my drive home, I couldn't get the image of that body out of my head. It couldn't be what I thought it was. It had to be someone sleeping, perhaps pressed up against the window? But sleeping in that odd position? I asked myself. I shook my head and reassured myself I was being silly, that it probably was a rag doll or some stupid prank some lonely idiot was pulling for attention. I brushed the whole encounter into the back of my mind and turned up the volume to my radio and tapped my fingers along to the melody of the song that was playing. The next day, I had completely forgotten about the whole encounter. I drove my usual route home. I sipped on my energy drink like always, a bad habit I picked up since the night of the incident. I stuffed my mouth with my favorite bag of chips, me completely innocent to the body I saw yesterday. That was, until I got to that exact same intersection. The red light stopping me once again as it did yesterday. As I waited for the light to turn, I suddenly remembered the window, and my head quickly glimpsed up to the same mid-rise apartment complex. There it was, in the same position as it were yesterday, its legs contorted behind itself, somehow positioned in ways that bones shouldn't bend. No way, I told myself. I started to look at the other drivers, hoping someone saw what I was witnessing. Instead, everyone was lost in their own worlds of mundane obscurity, them waiting for the green light. This time, I had to stop. I had to park and get off, and get a better look at whatever the hell this thing was. I walked towards the apartment complex. The sidewalk was full of people walking around more than usual, people colliding into me as if I were walking in the wrong direction. Finally, I came face to face with the building, and my eyes slowly crawled up the complex, me counting each floor while my breath grew heavy. There it was, on the 4th floor. I now had a moment to see it more vividly. It definitely was a person, or at least a body. I pulled out my phone to take a picture, but unfortunately my phone was dead. I must have forgot to charge it. Of course, damn it. I scolded myself. People continued shoving into me as they passed by, as if trying to break my concentration. I grabbed out at one of them, just wanting someone else to see what I was seeing. Excuse me, I said. Don't touch me, the woman angrily responded back. More and more people kept walking past me, not giving me any attention, as if I were invisible. Is anyone else seeing this? I yelled out loud with frustration, but people continued to ignore me. I jumped in front of one man trying to get him to stop and distinguish what this thing was. Sorry, just stop for a moment, sir. Can you just look up and tell me what you see? I asked the stranger. Fuck off, perv, he responded back as he pushed me to the floor. As I picked myself up off the ground, I continued looking up at the lifeless body with amazement. I didn't know what to do. I wasn't even too sure if I believed what I was observing. Looking around, seeing no one else cared, I walked back to my vehicle. I sat in my car for several minutes, me agonizing over the idea if I should call the police or anyone for help. Memories of the incident inundated my thoughts, me tormenting over the what-ifs and should-haves. I reached into my front pocket to pull out my phone, and I had forgotten it wasn't charged. I guess I'll call the police when I get home, I remembered thinking. Going to sleep that night, I had the worst nightmare. It was of me driving home from work, and in the rearview mirror, I saw the body from the apartment complex. It contorted and broken as it were in the window, but instead of the head being turned away from me, it was looking directly at me through the reflection. Its eyes piercing through my very soul, and then it screamed. I got very little sleep that night, to say the least, and I woke up in a puddle of sweat completely drenching my body. I foreboded the next day when driving home. I was tempted to take a different route, but unfortunately, to get to my little isolated neighborhood, there was only one way, and I would have to pass the intersection that I've grown to dread. Damn it. Relax, you called the cops. I'm sure they found the body or whatever the hell it is, I told myself as I lifted my energy drink, bringing it closer to my parched lips. I could feel my heartbeat accelerating the shorter the distance grew to the intersection. Unlike before in my mind-numbing routine, I was now at full alert, practically holding my breath as I approached the dreadful street. Once again, red light. Come on, I exclaimed to myself, irritated. I didn't want to look up. I tried my best not to. I just wanted to pretend I never saw the figure, that it didn't haunt my dreams, but my curiosity got the better of me. I closed my eyes and looked up towards its direction. Me envisioning it, it was gone. I counted to 3, slowly bracing myself for what I would see. 1. Okay, it's not there, I told myself. 2. It's not there. It's not there. It's not there. 3. My eyes opened cautiously, and to my horror, it was still there, in its same disfigured position. What the hell? I yelled out loud, causing me to bang the steering wheel with my fist. I could see the other drivers through my peripheral, their stares peering in through the windows, judging me because of my vigorous behavior. I didn't understand how could the cops not come get this body. I was left distraught, all types of emotions invading my senses, and my mind gently drifted into a realm of non-existence, as if I had fallen into a slumber by some magic spell. I was once again back on the road driving that fateful night of the incident, me practically falling asleep at the wheel. My eyes struggled to stay open, my mind drifting in and out of consciousness, and then I realized I was exiting the freeway. And that's when I saw the cyclist crossing the street. Honk! As before, the car behind me screeched its horn, snapping me out of my feverish daydream. The honking intensified, and my foot gently pressed on the gas pedal. I felt utterly empty as I crossed the intersection, and I could feel the body in the window somehow just leering at me. I called the police again, asking them about the body and why didn't they do anything about it. The operator stayed quiet, not saying a word. Instead, she told me to hold and connected me to some department within the police station. I waited for several seconds, rethinking my decision to call them, and then, finally, a voice could be heard on the other side of the phone. Yeah, this is Officer Smith. Is this the guy that called in a false report about the body? He told me. I remained silent for several seconds, digesting the notion that they believe it was a false report. No, you must have went to the wrong apartment. You could clearly see the body from the street corner, I said with a vexed tone protruding from my tired voice. Sir, we didn't see anybody, and it's a crime to call in falsified reports. Do it again, and we're going to have a problem. And then they hung up. I threw my phone against the dashboard from exasperation. Was I going insane? How could they not see it? Or was the killer just playing some twisted prank on me somehow? What the hell was going on? I went back home to my lonely apartment, defeated, not even hungry, my stomach turning knots from disquietude. As I got ready for bed, I could feel my skin crawling from anxiety. I knew I wasn't going to sleep an ounce. So I went towards my medical cupboard and looked for the sleeping pills that were prescribed to me after the incident. I downed a handful of pills, enough to put an elephant to sleep, and then took a swig of vodka as a chaser. I then scurried to my bed and prayed for solace. I just needed some rest, hoping this whole ordeal has been some weird twisted nightmare that I just needed to be awakened from. As the Sandman arrived, I found myself once again driving home that ill-fated night in my dream. I could clearly see the cyclist who was crossing the street. It was a young man, probably in his early 20s. I slammed on the brakes, trying to bring myself to a halt, but it was too late. Bang! As I heard the impact of flesh and bone gruesomely slamming against the pavement, I closed my eyes. I couldn't bring myself to open them. I was too frightened, but I already knew what I had done. As my eyes stayed tightly closed, I heard the voice call out into the brisk midnight air. Help me! Help me, please! The tortured man called out to me for aid, and I opened my eyes to see the young man laying on the floor, his body contorted into a ghastly shape, his legs bent back behind him. I opened my car door to get out, and then I woke up from my dream. Once again, I laid in a puddle of sweat, immersing me into a sense of regret. And then a sudden emotion empowered me. I knew what I had to do. I had to go to that apartment and confront the killer that shouldered away behind the dead body. Driving there in the middle of the night brought flashbacks to that night of me driving home. The graveyard shifts were brutal, and after that night, I pleaded with management to switch me to mornings. I told them I couldn't do it anymore. That night, after opening my car door, I approached the injured cyclist. I couldn't see his face. His head was turned to me, only revealing his hair. Help me, please, I remember the man calling out to me. What I did next was cowardly, I admit, but I was too scared. I got back into my car and drove home. I couldn't face the reality of what I've done, and only when I got home did guilt overcome me, and I called for help, telling them I saw an injured man laying on the ground. Well, I was a coward back then, and I'm not going to be one again. I was going to approach the killer and let the body in the window lay in peace. From the street, I counted the windows on each floor. I needed to be certain to which apartment it was. As my eyes came to the window, I saw the body, and it was still there. With ferocity, I flew up the stairs, storming with angst towards the door. There it was. Apartment 4B. It was 3 a.m. I wasn't even sure the killer would open the door, or hell, maybe the killer was gone, and the body laid alone. Before knocking, I figured, why not try opening the door? And to my luck, it was unlocked. As I entered the dark apartment, I searched for the window that faced the street. I stumbled toward the window and I banged my shin on the edge of the coffee table. Fuck! Ah! I weeped out. Finally, coming to the window, I realized there was nothing there. What the hell? I told myself. Who's there? A voice called from within the darkness. I just stood there at the window, confused by the whole situation. No, he must have known I was coming. He must have moved the body, I reasoned with myself. Who the hell are you? the voice from the darkness once again called out. I rushed towards the man's voice and reached out to grab him. He whimpered with fear. What do you want? Leave me alone, please, the man said. My manic episode left me with befuddlement, but out of frustration, I didn't know how to answer the man. I didn't even know if he was the killer or even if there were a body. But I tightly grabbed at his shirt, pulling him towards me, his face almost touching mine. Where is the body? I demanded to know. He continued sniveling in the darkness, and somehow he escaped my grasp and started to run. I yelled out to him once more, Where is the body? As the man ran away from me in the dark, he tripped over his own coffee table and fell to the floor. Crack! The man fell silent, and I approached the body cautiously, still lost in my own daze of perplexity. As I stood over the now lifeless body, I realized it was somehow pressed up against the window. It now resembled the body that I've been seeing. What the fuck is going on? I gasped out loud, grabbing at my head. Its body was stuck in the same posture. Its legs twisted and contorted, but now the body's head was facing me. I dropped to my knees in exhaustion and absolute defeat. I knew I was being tormented for my atrocities for that horrid night. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who to call. I just remained quiet. And I could hear police sirens thundering in the background. The sun now coming up, awakening the world with it. I guess the neighbors heard my screams and called the police. As the sun seeped in through the window, I could clearly see the young man that just died in front of me. His eyes fixated on me. Stop looking at me, I told it. I repeated these words over and over again. The police came in and arrested me, taking me away. I don't know what to think anymore. And as I sit handcuffed in the back of the police cruiser, waiting for them to take me in, I accept my fate and give up. As we drive off, I aimlessly stare up at all the apartment complexes. Me peering through all the windows, my skin feeling inside out from horror because, to add to my torment, all I see are more lifeless bodies pressed up against the windows. Hi guys, thanks for listening to my story. I would really love to build a bigger community of storytellers and writers. So, if you can, please like the video, subscribe. I would do my best to try to create more stories, but I will also love to read other people's stories. So if you have one, send it to me, send it to my email. I'll check it out, we'll collaborate together, and let's just grow this channel together. Alright, thanks guys. Have a great day.